A lot of these single player games come out, if they're like not, if it's not a fucking 48-hour game these days. I mean, there's just all kinds of bitching online. Oh, the game's only 5 hours to complete. And it's like, okay, well, maybe they only needed 5 hours to tell a good story. You know what I mean? It's just like what you're talking about sounds like a bunch of fucking filler.
It's fluff.
Like it's like, why was that part an hour long? Because it didn't need to be. You're right.
You know what I don't want to do after a long day's work? Get on Alan Wake 2 and put more work in because that's exactly how this game feels. And I already got to like 50%, and I wanted to do a nice review and just make it to the end. I'm sorry, I can't do it for you guys. This is where it's going to have to end. I mean, we did a review on Callisto Protocol. We were kind of disappointed with that one just based on that Dead Space creator. We had a lot of high hopes for that. And this one, I felt very similar because I didn't even, honestly, I didn't play the first one other than looking at it through cutscenes online. And so I'm looking at the reviews and I'm seeing like 4.5 stars. I'm like, oh my gosh, this game's got amazing. Ian, we got to get this thing. Other than how it looks, I'm not critiquing how it looks. It looks amazing. I have no, but the people that made this were definitely very artistic. I'm only looking at this from a story aspect. It dragged. It really dragged.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I watched you play a good chunk of it, and I think a lot of people are coming from the angle that like they want this to be good because there's such a drought as far as like good games go, and it looks very visually appealing. It's I guess a horror thriller game, which is generally I would think that's up my alley and a lot of people's alley. I mean, that's a pretty cool genre of game, and why shouldn't this be good? I mean, it looks cool. But I feel like people are going to take all the elements, like the visuals and the fact that it's just supposed to be scary and that the first game was good. I can't say I played the first game. I don't know anything about it, but people are going to try to justify this game and say that it's good. I don't know which magazine it was. It was like GameSpot or something gave it like a 4 or a 5, and everybody else gave it like a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 or whatever. And I'm hearing talks about Game of the Year. And if I'm hearing Game of the Year, this better be really good. I mean, most people better come around this game and find it appealing. And I mean that's how I would think about it. But okay, so everyone basically is going to come at this from, it looks good, it's a horror game, it's a successor to the original one that was good if you played the original one. And but nobody's going to ask the most simple question like, is the game fun to play? And the answer is no. It's repetitive. It's boring. It's a scavenger hunt. It's not really even fun to watch. It's like the story's pretty uninteresting. And I'm sure there's going to be some nerd that's like, oh, you just don't know the story and all that. So it's like, dude, I shouldn't have to know so much to be able to discern whether it's a good game or not. Like, I shouldn't even need to know anything just to be able to have fun. I should just be able to have fun or enjoy the process of the game. I don't have to know every little thing he ever wrote in every other game or whatever to figure out if this is fun or not. That's not how it works. Everyone's giving it all this praise for all these other reasons, but no one's asked the most simple question. Is it fun to play? And I would say that the answer is no.
Yeah, and we can compare mystery, and mystery is a good aspect of any type of game. And what comes to mind is Halo. Halo is all about mystery, and it doesn't tell you all the answers. And I don't need to know all the answers. But the thing that's different about this game is that there's a sense of confusion the entire time. But the protagonist, specifically the black female, she's not confused. She is figuring out everything as she goes, and I'm left behind as the player trying to figure it out and catch up with the protagonist. It's like, so I have no empathy with the protagonist already because she's just way ahead of me, apparently. Even when she meets Alan Wake for the first time, she doesn't need any explaining from him. I already know what's going on. It's like, well, for somebody that's just getting into Alan Wake, and yes, I do believe that I should be able to play this game number 2 and have some understanding or some introduction into this new world. And they had that opportunity by bringing in a new character, which I thought that was a good. But
No,
she
Daniel, you shouldn't even need an introduction. You should just be able to know what's going on. It's even more simple than that.
or the mystery is the thing, and that's okay. I don't need to know everything. In fact, I like not knowing everything, but this game just went about it differently. I think my main issue with this was literally the protagonist, a very boring protagonist, and I'm saying the protagonist is the black female. In this game, it is definitely predominantly they want you to think that the black female is the protagonist. So I'm only going based on that. She has absolutely no emotion. Every time there's some crazy supernatural experience, she's never experienced this before. Her reaction to it is like, "Oh, I just accept this as it is," or whatever. And there's no like, "How can I empathize with you if you don't care? Why do I care?" And I lose all the fear in suspense because she doesn't
Or not
care about
empathize,
anything.
but how can you relate? How
Yeah,
can
her
you
reactions
put
make no sense.
yourself in her shoes? You can't because it's yeah, like
And
she's never. This is all supernatural, and she's just like right away. Oh, these are monsters. These are like instantly refers to them, categorizes all of these things as monsters and all this shit. And it's like you didn't even know what the heck these things were like 5 minutes ago. Like I don't understand how everybody's just so nonchalant about
yeah,
this dimension that they've discovered. You know.
yeah, she's like a robot responding to things kind of like in an observer perspective. And I get it that she's a detective and just kind of has no emotion to it, but it's too little because that's what makes a good horror is seeing that person's reaction. And that's how you base your own reaction to it. Um, and it's just funny how Alan Wake is the one that's kind of like a nervous Nelly. He has more reaction to the environment, even though he's been in it forever. And then he shows up with her and she doesn't have one.
Yeah, and
And it's like,
he's manipulating it too, but he's still like, he's showing more worry than she is, even though he's manifesting everything that's happening. So it doesn't make any sense. If anything, he should be
more
more
accepting of
secure
what's
about
happening.
what's going on. But she's just kind of emotionless. I mean, quite literally through the whole game about everything.
I think he should have been the one that was more accepting, and should be the one that's more confusing. That would just make more sense. So I don't even agree making him a nervous Nelly character. I don't think that makes sense for a second take. I think you should have a sense of confusion. Where am I? Whatever. And there's like so much for her. It's like, oh my gosh, I had a past where I had a daughter and she died or whatever. It's like no reaction. That's weird. And that's it. it's just it's
Yep.
it's it's boring. It's a boring character is what it is, and I can't get invested in it. So I'm analyzing it from that perspective. As
Yeah.
far as like
Well,
the shadows, go ahead.
something you
Go
brought
ahead.
up though, this is just interesting, but you have that storyboard that you lay out, like a detective would, I guess, and you draw all the dots or whatever, you input all the information and all that stuff, and it doesn't have any effect on the game. So I'm asking, like, why the heck is this even here? It's nothing other than like a waste of time. I guess it looks cool, but you can't manipulate the outcome, and it doesn't really show you anything. Everybody's just blowing right through it. Like they had to know that everyone's just fucking inputting everything and just okay, on to the next. Get me to the next scene. It's like people aren't like it doesn't help you decipher and like really change the way you go about the game going forward. I don't even understand why that element's in the game. It looks cool, but why don't I have an impact on the story
Yeah,
through
it's
that
an
or
illusion
something?
that I have some sort of, like you said, impact on it.
I
I'm
thought that
still
was
going
strange.
point A to point B. I can't do these tasks without doing these preliminary tasks.
It's still a
And
linear story, but it's trying to almost trying to act like it's there's maybe some input. I mean, obviously there isn't, but I mean Wake has some input himself, but it's strange the way they went about it. Basically, what I'm getting at is just kind of it seems like it's just the whole thing's a facade. If I'm using that word correct, it's just like it looks really cool visually. I mean, if somebody walked by you while you were playing this game, oh, what is that? It looks pretty cool. But then you sit down and you play it. It's like, man, I can barely stay awake, man.
I don't know how people are forcing themselves to stay awake. And not only that, if I'm really trying to play this game like um without YouTubing what I need to do next. I mean, I'm telling you, I probably during a complicated campaign I'll YouTube about 3 times. I will genuinely try not to do that. In this game, whether it was out of just like I feel like this is work and I just I want the story to progress and I'm going back and forth and no story progression is happening at all. I'm 50% of the way game and like maybe like a total of 4 things probably happened that were important. And I'm just going back and forth on these maps.
Yeah,
Yeah, I felt like it was a work. I just
I don't know, and
I didn't
and
it
and
was
the
not much reward.
the other thing from my perspective was like, why do they have real video of these actors that are within the game in certain parts of the game, like being casted on the TV or wherever if you're walking by a TV in the game or whatever? Is like, and you get these moments where there was like a fucking dance party or dance
He
fucking
was. Dude,
revolution.
I can't even.
Like we
I
can't
can't
even
even do it.
this is all gibberish if you haven't played the game. Like, what the fuck are these guys talking about? But it's like I don't understand why that's in the game. The graphics aren't good enough to like be like, okay, that's, you know what I mean? It's still too different between like the actual film of these actors and like their game versions, their in-game versions. So,
And that's okay if you want to fluff up the story and kind of add these kind of weird little outlets, but don't make it so long. I mean, I was running through this little like mind maze that is going on forever and hearing this obnoxious singing about this, like, I guess his doppelganger is trying to mess with him or something in his mind. And I kind of understood that, but it was too long. It was like an hour of that. And I'm like, this doesn't need, if you want to put this in the story, just put it in for a brief second. All this stuff that they added in, they could have done for a brief second and then moved on. And I would have been caught up a little bit.
yeah, something I think a lot of these single player games come out, if they're like not, if it's not a fucking 48-hour game these days. I mean, there's just all kinds of bitching online. Oh, the game's only 5 hours to complete. And it's like, okay, well, maybe they only needed 5 hours to tell a good story. You know what I mean? It's just like what you're talking about sounds like a bunch of fucking filler.
It's fluff.
Like it's like, why was that part an hour long? Because it didn't need to be. You're right. But, I'm sure they wanted to make it 48-hour long game, whatever the fuck it is. I'm just pulling that out of my ass. But I mean, like, so it seems like there's more there. And you actually dilute the story by prolonging certain parts
Or
of
the
it.
truth is you don't have one and you're just kind of fluffing it up. That's kind of like, because if honestly, I feel like this is the type of game where if they explain what's going on in a very clear and concise manner where I can break it down, I guarantee you I'm going to find like a ton of plot holes in it. And so to stop that from happening, they don't share everything with you. It would make so much more sense if, like you said, like I could shortcut it by reading everything and actually get to the what's going on. Like that would make sense. It's like, okay, I need to go to this location because I read this or whatever. It's like that would be a chore, but I mean, it would have made more sense while you're using that whiteboard. I'm calling it a whiteboard. I know it's not a whiteboard, but you know what I mean. And anybody who's
storyboard
thinking,
or whatever,
yeah, the storyboard, case files,
whatever the fuck you want to call that, yeah.
Yeah, there were so many obnoxious things when it came to everything. Like there were so many times where I had to go to the case files or whatever, and I missed one, putting up the wall, and I could not grab an item until I put that item on the wall. And it was just, there were so many of those times where I was just like, oh my god, dude, it's so linear, and
it gets
seems like
mundane, and you're just like, all right, this is cool, but let me move on.
yeah, you're putting too much effort into it, and yeah, I don't know what else. But for those that are listening and think that we're a channel that just wants to be edgy, and everybody's thinking that this is a 5-star game, and we're just going, this is terrible. I promise you right now, I genuinely think this is a terrible game. I mean, this is game of the year for the worst game.
No, we didn't, we didn't buy it to hate on it. I mean, I'm not kidding. There's games in the past that we've well, actually, we've really never done that. I've never bought anything to actually just hate on it. I buy stuff because I think it's got a chance of being good. I would much rather come on here and say that the game's incredible and it's everything it's cracked up to be. I mean, that would be cool. But no, it's seems pretty lackluster.
This is what I will commend it for. I'll commend it for good graphics. Artistically, it looks amazing. Main menu looks amazing. How it all kind of like looks like a movie and all that stuff. Amazing. Great job. Love the effort. You put effort into it. I agree. I just think your effort was kind of in vain, to be honest. It's a long game for long sake. I feel. I don't think that the substance justifies it.
Yeah, the world building was great, but it's just kind of the writing fell flat. That's really and which is, let's be honest, the most important part. I mean, you can have all these great visuals, but if it's not written well and if it's not a coherent story, I mean, it's kind of, people are just going to lose interest. I'm sure there's people out there that can make sense of it, and people love the first one, just like, oh yeah, this makes complete sense. You guys are just a bunch of fucking idiots. But again, I'll go back to the simple thing of like, is it fun or not? And the answer is no, it's not fun. So there's your answer. The game sucks. I don't care what nuanced little fucking thing we missed.
Yeah, and I don't need to be a nerd of anything to be able to enjoy it. Like,
yeah,
I
exactly.
enjoy the Star Wars movies, but the nerds out there that want to like dissect it and act like whatever their opinion is
most of the
canon.
time they ruin it. Most of the time it's like I lose interest the second I hear one of them talk. Like, it's just now the story's lame. You made it lame. because you're bringing in these arbitrary, stupid facts that don't matter. It's like I can just watch something and tell if it's good or not. I don't have to
and there's a reason
I don't
why
need to know
you
every little. Me knowing this one little fucking fact about this one little character in this one place and time doesn't change my entire fucking idea about the fucking movie. Oh, now it's a good movie or a good game. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
No, and if you nerds talk to the director, like there's a reason why you're not writing anything.
Yeah. If you like the video, subscribe. Do it. It's free. It's easy. Takes no effort. See ya.